you'd like to contact the show, send us an email at liveonfourlegspodcast@gmail.com or get involved in the conversation on social media. Join the Pearl Jam Podcast community group on Facebook or follow us on Twitter at liveonfourlegspod.
I kind of hope he doesn't hear about it, but I know if Bruce Springsteen hears about... It's gonna be like, hey Ed, I heard you got like a little flag there, and I heard that's really nice. I'm really proud of you guys. That's great. You're really proud. But I tell you what, Ed, you got some catching up to do. You got a little bit of catching up to do. I say, call me in 20 years. And away we go.
You're listening to Live on Four Legs, the live Pearl Jam podcast experience, featuring
Mr. Stone Gossard. Gentlemen! Mama Queen! Matt fucking Cameron in the drum. Mr. Boom Gasper. You can call me Al, you can call me Ed, you just fucking call me, why don't you?
Hey everybody now, welcome to Live on Four Legs, a definitive live Pearl Jam podcast, and I just want to wish everybody a happy 30th anniversary to the 10 record, and that's why we're here today, and that's what we're doing today, and the rest of this week is all going to be dedicated to their seminal album, the first one that came out, the one that really kickstarted everything. And look, we could sit here and we can make this a whole entire episode about what this record means to the band, what this means to the fans, what this means to the history of music, and especially 90s, because when you think of 90s records and what kind of pushed the music scene at the time, like it was 10 and Nevermind were up there as just neck and neck, the two best and the two that people gravitated towards the most. Why we're here today is basically from this album. Like I can't see myself being in this position without 10 at all, because it's that important to everything that we're doing. And you'll see this week, a lot of people have written to us and written some love letters to the record and what it means to them. And we're going to get into that in a sec. Why don't we just introduce the show and what we're doing here today? Because I'm Randy Sobel. I'm over here. That's John Farrar. He's over there.
Hello.
Hi. Get your take on this. I mean, like the weight of having to talk about the 30th anniversary of this record, where does that fit with you?
Yeah, it's been weird. Like, honestly, I don't spend a lot of my time thinking about this record a lot. I mean, we cover a lot of the songs, but we cover it in like a live sense, and we don't, I don't ever really go back to this record a lot. But, going through all this and this anniversary and going through all the website stuff, it's kind of made me rethink a little bit. And, I can talk on for hours about No Code and Vitalogy and Yield and Riot Act and all the records that I love and still go back to, but 10 is where it all started, man. None of that other stuff is even possible without this record, and it's very, very important. And I was one of those kids in 1992 that listened to it every single day, and it formed a lot of what I am and who I am and the way I think, and it's one of those records, man. It hit me at the right time, and yeah, it's been interesting good this week having it kind of resurface in this way.
Yeah, and one of the things that we're doing for the website when the website launches this week, liveonfourlegs.com, which you'll want to check out. There's going to be a lot of really cool stuff. We'll get into that a little bit later, but one of the cool things that we have going on is that we got a lot of people's kind of love letter to the record and what it's meant to them. And it's like people like us, and then it's people that listen to us, and then it's people that are from the Pearl Jam universe that are doing things like we do, like other podcasts and people that do other publications that are dedicated to Pearl Jam, because it's important to us to involve all those kind of people. And let's not leave out No Code, because No Code is going through its 25th anniversary as well. We will have our No Code content on the website, and No Code is kind of being reserved for September now. So if you're looking for a tribute to No Code 25th anniversary, it's going to happen in September. Don't you worry about that. We'll do it up. But you can't disregard the 30 or 10 anniversary, and it just so happens that both of them land on the same day, so it's really tough to not take one over the other. And but I think a lot of that content you'll see just everybody and their reaction to the record. And the big thing that I took out of it is people can call 10 sort of a nostalgia record, and I don't see it that way, because I feel like all 11 tracks from that album have helped mold and kind of grow into who I am and into sort of the person. I don't even want to say the fan, but the person that I've become, and what those songs have meant to me, when I was 16, when I was 25, have grown and mean something completely different to me now. I'm always able to cherry pick things off these songs and say, like, oh my God, like, I've now learned this from Garden, and I feel a newfound respect for a song like Garden or Release later on in life. And it's not nostalgia where you're listening to something that kind of feels good and fuzzy for the first time. Like, it takes you back to a place where, life was a little bit simpler. This isn't nostalgia. This is just growing and having something in your life for a very long time, and growing with it. It's a marriage. It's a relationship. So I think I have that, and I would assume you have it too with every Pearl Jam record, and even going further than Pearl Jam, other bands and other records from them.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So what we're going to talk about today, obviously, you can't go on the 30th anniversary and not talk about the night in Philadelphia in 2016 when they played the full 10 album. And there is a really good reason for this, and they mention it in the show, but I think we got to start with it. It's that they were getting a banner that night for 10 consecutive sellouts. And what's interesting on this, if you look back on either Live Footsteps or Stat Tracker, if you look back to their records to see the Philadelphia shows, there's a big gap in between 1992 and 2003. That's because most of the shows that were happening at that time were happening in places like a Camden or a Homdale, or places like that weren't necessarily in Philadelphia, but happened kind of outside the city, where people from Philly can easily travel and get there. But it wasn't until 2003 where they started playing, the main arenas like the Spectrum and the Wells Fargo Center. And this was, they saw that they had sold out for the 10 consecutive time. And since 10 is obviously a very important number in this band's legacy, going back to Mookie Blaylock, they saw that the banner was being raised, and they said, well, I think we got to do it. There's no other way. And when you think of that, and you think of everything that happened in 2014 with Moline in Milwaukee, and then a couple weeks before this with Greenville, which you were at.
Yep.
And then even a couple weeks later with Binaural in Toronto. Like, this was the one I feel like everybody was waiting for.
Definitely. And I think even going back to the banner, I think it even says like South Philly sellouts. So they're
Right.
confining it to just like that, these couple of arenas in this little neighborhood. But yeah, like Moline kind of like, because other bands were doing this by then, like Riot Fest was a thing, Coachella. Like we talked about these, these bands doing these album shows became like a thing. But it was like, oh, Pearl Jam would never do that. They would never do that. And then 2014, they did twice. So then it became, oh, when are they going to do 10? When are they going to do 10? When's it going to happen? And I wonder if they even had this in mind. Like you said, if they just saw the banner and were like, oh, well, we have to do it here. This is the time. I wonder when it would have popped up if this hadn't have, if the moment hadn't come together like it did here.
Yeah, that's a really good question, and I don't have the answer to that. And I'm
Yeah.
wondering if it didn't happen, if all the stars didn't align in Philadelphia, would we have gotten it anywhere else on this tour? Would we have gotten binaural? Was the idea before, when they were rehearsing for this, was the idea to say like, let's sprinkle in one or two. I'm sure they looked at the record store day and thought, okay, that's a good one. What should we save for that? I don't think they knew going into the second Philly show that it was going to be the 10th consecutive. Like, that's not something that seems like common knowledge to them. I know that they're kind of up on the statistics and what's been played, what hasn't been played, and they're pretty good about the knowledge of that. But I don't think that was on their mind. That doesn't seem like something that anybody knew until the banner was revealed.
Yeah, I can't imagine them. They don't have a statistician on the staff or something that like confers
No,
with them like before every show. Like, okay, this show is here and here, and this show you did this and this on this day, and this and this. Like, they're just going off. He's just going off those notebooks and whatever else.
I
So
hope
yeah, that I get they probably didn't have any idea.
I hope they're going off live footsteps, because I mean, like, imagine like just Stone just looking through live footsteps and being
Yeah.
like, "Whoa, we played this 9 out of 25 times on the Riot Act tour,
I
and
can see
only
them. I could see them looking at it being like, somebody went to the trouble over all this. Like,
seriously, right?"
like, no thanks.
Yeah, just keep the statistics kind of simple, I guess.
Yeah.
That's impossible when it comes to this band. There's a lot of math involved. But it's funny because a lot of people in the last couple of years, their main complaint has been there's a lot of 10 in shows to begin with. Like, you'll get at least 5 or 6 a night because they're drawing in the older crowd. They're drawing in the people that are in their 40s. That, unfortunately, some of those people that might be on the fence, kind of casual fans, they are going for nostalgia purposes. It's not you and I. It's not our listeners that,
Yeah. Yeah.
we're going because we have a relationship with their whole entire catalog, or at least, 90 or 80% of it. Some people are going because 10 was their youth. They grew up and now they want a piece of their youth again. And that's what's there. So if anybody went to this show that felt like that had to have been a huge treat for them.
Yeah, I don't even think the band thinks of it like that. I don't think they go into like, well, we have to play 5 or 6, 10 songs because
No,
I
they
just think
think of
they,
what works.
yeah, I just
They
think
think of what
these
works for the
songs
night.
have all become like these huge moments. Like they're still like fun and exciting for them to play, 25 at this point, 25 years later. And I think they just they still work. Like it's not they're not running through the motions on these at all. But yeah, I mean, imagine being like a casual fan, like and just going to the show and you're getting this whole album. You're like, oh my god, this is the greatest thing ever.
Right. Like,
I'm getting all these. I know all these songs. The show's going to get a really good review in Rolling Stone, and it's going to get a really
of
good review on all
course.
these because they're all like it's all the lowest common denominator stuff. Like they've got to appeal to the largest audience, and most people when they think of Pearl Jam, they think of Alive and Jeremy and even Flo and all that. So this is going to get their attention. So yeah, definitely, it has that to it, but. There's more to this show too. We'll get into that as well.
We will. One of the things I do want to bring up, because it's been a while since we've talked about specifically these couple of days, and we did the MSG series back a few years ago, and we talked about the 2016 shows, which I was at both of those, and I had such high expectations for both of those shows because of this night. And to me, they didn't meet them, and maybe it's because my expectations were so high, but like, you can't get much higher than playing their most famous album in full. Like, I thought, if they're going to do 10 in Philly, then they're going to do Riot Act or Avocado. Like, I think it was the 10th anniversary of the Avocado record, the second night of MSG. And I obviously Matt was with me, so he was like, "Oh, we're getting Avocado tonight," and it didn't happen at all. But I thought that they would do something a little bit more special for the people in New York. New York has gotten their fair share of special things before, but I'm saying here, I think the overall idea is that you can't really get much better than this. If something like this happens at a show before you're going to a show, like limit your expectations because they're not reaching this.
Yeah, I mean, like I wonder if they had planned this for MSG and then saw the banner and bumped it up.
Oh, shut up.
Yeah.
That okay. The stat nerd in me and the collector in me wants to say, like, while 10 is very cool, I would rather get a record like Binaural or Riot Act, where I'm looking to hear all those songs.
Hey,
10
I was happy to get Versus, man.
I would be happy with any of them, of course, but like I would just feel so fulfilled if I was in Toronto or something like that, you know? Just to get Rival and I haven't even heard Light Years yet, or Thin Air, or any of some of those songs.
Go down the line. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But 10 is one of the very few albums that I have heard everything from. I think it's 10, and technically I have everything that they've played from Vitalogy filled up. So
it doesn't count.
It doesn't count, you're saying?
Nope, doesn't count.
I think it counts until they play something.
We'll see.
That's what I'm saying.
I don't know.
Well, that's a debate that we can have a little bit later on. But
yeah.
we're opening up the show here. Let's let the show begin. And here's something very interesting, and maybe why this wasn't really predicted beforehand, and why you can't say, they knew this the whole time, is that night one, they opened with Once. Can you believe that? Like, isn't that a little bit crazy? Isn't that like...
Yeah.
Once is not a very common opener in 2016. It's something that maybe in 1992 they opened with a lot more, and kind of, every now and again would kind of float in there. But I would almost think, if I'm at both Philly shows, that opening with Once would be a little bit of a hint there. Like, okay, why would they do this 2 times in a row in the same city? That's a little suspect to me.
They come out to Master Slave too, and I don't think they were doing that a lot at this point.
No.
So
they weren't doing that at all.
That would be a little like something to think about, give you something to think about, like, because Greenville, like I said, 2 weeks prior, that's on people's minds. Were they just making sure they knew it the night before? Like, obviously, it seems like they would know once.
I think it went through the stats on
or something. Is that like,
I've been through the stats on Once before, and I think the longest they've ever went without playing it, even in the Jack era, it was usually played pretty often when Jack was in the band in 95, 96. 30 shows. I think it was 30 shows that they went. That was the longest time that they had gone without playing it. So yeah, they know it. There's no question about it. What I want to bring up here is that out of all 5 of these shows, and I consider them the 5, I know that there's Munich, and Munich is actually something that we'll get to a little bit later, because we do have Munich on the table that'll be for Patreon. We'll talk about that a little bit later in the episode. But the other show that they did was Torino in Italy in 2006, where they did the Full Avocado record. And I while it counts, it's kind of a little bit of the bastard child within these 5, because these 5 kind of happen at the same time. It becomes a thing, and it's done. It started off in Moline, where it's a place that they've never played before, and a couple days later it's Milwaukee. So it really kind of pops some eyeballs there. But this is the first time out of this bunch, and the only time out of this bunch, where they actually open with the first track of the record. And I think that's pretty important.
Yeah. The other times it felt like they were trying to throw you off the scent, right?
Sure.
Like, oh, we're going to start off with this other one and then go into it. So you're always going to be like, until you know, you don't know. Right. But this one, it's like, yeah, let's just get into it and do it. And I think part of that is you got to have that master slave intro into once. I think you can't come out and do corduroy and then play master slave and then play it once. That just doesn't work.
Yeah, no, and you know, I'm glad you caught that, because on the YouTube version, I don't think they have the master slave intro to that.
Yeah, they cut it out.
Yeah, but right, I do remember them actually playing it. But yeah, it's not going to work any other way, and it's the way they did it here was smart, and especially because it's this record. If it were any other record, if you were opening the show with Sometimes, okay, like you get it and you'll get into it, but this, like, I don't think they wanted to pull any punches with this, because remember, you're going right from Once into Even Flow. That is, just take the album out of it. Just think of them as just actual songs. Those are heavy hitters to start your show. Just those two. Just those two.
Yeah, you mean we always get Once as like an encore song now, or even like an encore 2 song.
Yeah, and I think that kind of goes with the territory of 10, that because it is a 10 song, if this was on a different record, does it have that kind of clout? I don't know, maybe.
Yeah.
Perhaps, but I think because it's on 10, it has so much more weight to it. And there's another song that's in this, obviously that's on the record, that we'll look at the statistics of what they did with it that year, and it doesn't make sense from the way that they've kind of treated the song in the last 10 years or so. But when you think of, again, the record in general, okay, it makes sense that this was played more than maybe a binaural or a Rydak song. So let's dig into Even Flow, because like I think that I'm triggered if I'm at the show. I think that immediately I have to be thinking to myself, Even Flow's number 2. There's no other way to go here. This has to be it.
And some people know, because you can hear after the riff starts, you hear some screaming in the crowd. Like, there's some acknowledgement. Some people are like, okay, yep. Some people are onto them at this point for sure. And yeah, this would be a cool moment. Like, I can't even imagine being in the room. Like, it felt like this had a little extra bounce to it. It felt like we talked about it with Greenville, like when the band knows and they got something up their sleeve,
right?
That they know about, that the crowd doesn't know. It gives them a little extra push, and this version has that.
I actually thought that most of these performances weren't very definitive of this era, like the post-Lightning Bolt era, where everything is just, all right, let's play it as fast as we can. It felt really melodic. It felt way more paced, especially Once
too, especially. Yeah, Stone.
Way more paced.
So good.
Right.
So good. Stone, right at when he starts that intro, it sounds so good.
Mm-hmm. Like, Even Flow, the same thing. It the same way. Like, you're so used to these songs just kind of being at this furious pace, where maybe sometimes in the beginning of the song, kind of that open, Michael even start with a solo sometimes, or just Stone kind of goes off. But Stone's groove in this as well is very apparent, and it's not like Mike lays off at all, but like Stone and Matt are really setting the table with this version. I think that's what to take out of it.
they lump these versions in with the rest of the year, or even the rest of the decade, really. It's kind of its own singular thing, because it just changes. Having them all together like this just changes the way they play them.
Yeah, I think so too. And you know, I do want to bring this up. It's not like even flow in this spot has never been done before. And I think that most people in the crowd could say to themselves, well, crazier things have happened. There has been a show where they've opened up with Alive. There's been a show where they've opened up with Porch. And maybe that, we talked about the Seattle show a couple weeks ago where fourth song in was River Mirror. And that's something that can kind of take notice right away and get you focused in on the set and be like, okay, this is different than the rest of what they've done. And maybe that's sort of kind of taking people and making them think, okay, even Flow's here at the number 2 spot, they could do anything.
Oh, there's probably a lot of people in the crowd that still had no idea, and it wasn't until Alive kicks in there that it hits. And once Even Flow, like, you know, oh, maybe they're gonna do a Hondo thing and play 2 from each record, and here we go, and like, oh yeah, they're not gonna do 10 tonight. Like, no way.
That's the thing I like about this the most, is that there is a suspension of belief here where you can take and be in the moment and not be so critical as to like, okay, just trying to figure out the equation to everything. You just kind of get lost in the moment and you say like, all right, well, Even Flow is great. What do you got next for me? And then I think the most normal response when you hear that riff opening up Alive is just complete euphoria. That crowd and you don't know what's going on, then just, you know, go to the front gate and give up your ticket and let somebody else experience this, because
talking about Greenville, like I remember thinking, you know, once Daughter hit, first thing I did was go down the track list, like, oh, we're gonna get Leash, we're gonna get WMA, we're gonna get Rats, we're gonna get Indifference, or we're gonna get Rearview Mirror, we're gonna, like, and I'm sure to hear like, oh, we're getting Alive, then we're gonna get Wygo, then we're gonna get Black, then we're gonna get Jeremy, then we're gonna get Porch, then like, oh yeah, you're just like, oh my god, like just to be in that building, the electricity would have been palpable, I'm sure.
You can kind of almost relax at that point, and there's no more questions, there's no questioning anything, and you can kind of say to yourself, like, just enjoy the record the same way that you enjoyed it just listening to it on CD or cassette as a kid, you know? The overall theme of this, especially this show, that I thought, you know, in comparison to maybe some of the other album shows, is that this really felt like listening to the record but live, you know?
Okay.
I don't know if I got that from every single one of these, but this especially had that significant idea to it.
Yeah, it definitely changes, like, the flow of them kind of changes the way you think about it, because there's, you know, normally these are spread out and they're big moments, you know, like everybody gets to pump their fist and why go, and everybody gets to sing along in Black, and the end of Jeremy where everybody gets to go do the whoas, and Porch is a huge thing, and you're getting all of those back to back to back. So each one loses its impact individually, and they just kind of become this whole. To be in the crowd, you're just like, oh, just song after song, we're having the best time. Like, we're participating, we're singing along, we're going nuts. But normally we talk about, there's those waves, and like you build to these songs, and then it crashes down, and it's the big moment. But here it's just, they're just hitting you one after the other, and yeah, they're not going to have the same impact they normally do. It's just they're going to have the impact is just keeps on building on itself.
Right. It's like there's almost nothing to anticipate because everything that's about to happen. All the dominoes that are about to fall, but you're saying to yourself, like, once Alive, they finally kind of end that and it's over. You're saying to yourself, all right, get those haze ready for Why Go, and then then you're completely turned for a loop, and you have Black after that. Then like you said, there's so many. All of these, like you can mentally prepare yourself for each one and sort of how to react to it. And look, I think Alive might be the moment out of the full album, especially because when you think about it and you think about how it's utilized, and it's pretty much the guarantee in Pearl Jam that you're going to get this to kind of signal that this is your end of your show. And to get it in the number 3 spot, to get it where it belongs on the album, it has sort of a different undertaking to it. It kind of feels like you can have a really, really big crowd moment that you usually don't get from the first couple of songs in. Like, you just kind of, you can get that from Corduroy a little bit, but more you're just getting people to be amped up. You're just getting energy. And while Alive has that, I think you're kind of almost gathering the crowd together and getting them in together as family very early on and making it very intimate very early on, which it doesn't seem to happen with a lot of other songs. Alive has a very special way about it where it can do that.
Yeah, you see kind of Ed acknowledge the crowd, like he claps for the crowd, and there's a surge from the crowd. Of course, when everybody realizes what's happening, the crowd kind of acknowledges that riff, and like you hear them push, like everyone's like, it's almost like this huge, like, thank you, like everyone at once going like, yes, like back to the band, like, yes, this is what we waited for. This is what we wanted. And yeah, Alive is, they don't hold back on it. I think back to Daughter from Greenville, where there's no tag. It's just a straight kind of album version. And I was kind of thinking we were going to get that with Alive here, like it was going to, but yeah, they don't hold back. It's almost like the crowd kind of gave them permission to be like, yeah, you can let it go. You can do your normal thing on this. Don't hold back. And like, we're ready for it. We're ready for it early. I think, there's only a few cities that can do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Philly especially is one of these cities that is just always on their game. They are as passionate fans. Like, it's like Philly, Boston, New York. Obviously, those are all Northeast. But Chicago thrown in there, and maybe a Seattle or somewhere in California kind of thrown in there too. But they're always on their game with this kind of thing, and they know how special the moment is. And they know how special it is for them. They know how special it is for the band, and they know that they're in the middle of history, essentially. So, and really, there's not a lot of other better places to do something like that than there. Obviously, look, we don't have to say what each song is going to be before going into it, but
Ed doesn't
Why Go is next.
There's no talking.
Nothing until before
songs.
Release,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So Why Go? And you're going straight through, and you'd have to think like, okay, Alive kind of takes your breath away a little bit and can kind of be like, maybe you need a little bit of a break. But no, they go back into such an unbelievably high energetic version of Why Go, where the hate, again, with the Hey chants in the very, very beginning, like before Jeff even gets into playing, you hear them and they're prominent. like solo. Jeff's bass line is very prominent in this. Like, it feels like maybe Jeff's bass was just dialed up just a little bit more so you can hear him a little bit better in this, but he sounded really, really good. And that's not much of a difference than when he plays Wygo on other nights, but this night is special and needs to be dissected in its own right. And I mean, it's a Jeff song, so of course, but the crowd is just, it is on edge for everything, and they're enjoying and celebrating all of it. It's really fantastic to watch.
Yeah, and especially, we talk a lot about the crowd and the crowd reaction, but think about the band too. Like, we always talk about, that quote from Stone where he's like, oh, let's just go out and kill him. Let's play the hits and like, let's do the thing. And like,
he's getting his show.
This is his, and like, think about Jeff too. Like, these are their songs, these early songs. And like, they're just feeding off the energy from this crowd. And like, these performances are just, you can imagine just the energy on stage too, not even out in the crowd. Like, they're just going off on these songs, every single one.
Yeah, it can kind of take you back to a moment in 1991 or 1992 where these songs were still sort of growing. And when you hear or watch them from like a Pink Pop kind of show or even an Unplugged, and to see like that kind of energy, it's transformed a little bit. It's kind of like they're bringing back a little bit of that to their 52, 53-year-old selves, and
I think Jeff should have brought back one of his big hats. I think that would have been a nice touch.
Jeff should always bring back one of his big hats. I am a key proponent of Jeff hats here. I am well in favor of them. I know, and they're impossible to find, by the way. You cannot find one of those hats for sale. Okay, so Black. Now, think of this in kind of set list form. The first four are, with the exception of Alive that doesn't ever get played in this spot, the energy and the way that you want to tailor a show is there. Like, you have all of your key crowd moments, you have all your kind of key introductory moments, and now you're kind of getting Black in the spot where it might be a small town, or it might be anything like from Nothing As It Seems, Given a Fly, right? Yeah. Any of those kind of songs. Yet Black is not exactly that simplistic. It's more complex than that. But however, they are able to kind of take the weight of this song and turn it into having it be sort of like how you would hear it on the album, outside of them tagging "We Belong Together" at the end, which is obviously not on the record. It still has that semblance of feeling very by the books and very simple.
This is the one too that I'm glad you kind of singled this one out, because Black is the one that feels. And we're going to talk about this too with Munich when we on the Patreon in a couple of days. But Black is the one that you're kind of like, how is this gonna? Because this is the one that sounds a little out of place. It sounds a little weird here, and you're like, how it? Because it normally Black is the reward for like getting through the whole show. It's sweat drenched. You've gone through this whole journey, and like you finally get Black, and it's like, oh, here's our moment. Like, they're warmed up, they're ready to say goodbye, and like it's this big moment. Like that's the one, right? When they play Black, like it's still a showstopper, and it's almost weird here to hear it in this spot. And I think this is the one too that maybe doesn't. And I mentioned you can't really compare these to other performances from the era, and I think that's especially true of Black. Like yes, it's got the do-do-do-do-do's. The crowd's great. Ed sounds great on it, but it's not the big moment here that it normally is.
It's really tough to capture that because
and
it's all from build.
And
it's all from build from a 25 song set that you've just played, and you get this in Encore 2. Like, that's the response from all that. That's not the response of them just playing Black. That's the response of them playing maybe Present Tense earlier in the night, or Go, and having the fans react to those, and then finally getting Black kind of be the culmination before getting an Alive or something like that. It's sort of the precursor to all of it.
And that's just me. Like, if I had been in the building, like hell yeah, I'm singing along, I'm into it. But going back and listening, you're kind of like, this one doesn't. I don't know. It seemed like it just seemed out of place. That's all.
There are some shows from the European tour in 2014 where Black was like song 3 or 4, and they were testing it out, and they were kind of packaging it back and forth with Sirens. So one day Sirens would be 3rd and Black would be number 4, and then vice versa. And I wasn't really a fan of that in that instance, but here I'm like, look, it's the record. You're not going to do this any other night. This is special. This is hopefully one time only, especially for the people that were there. The Philly fans don't want St. Louis or Pittsburgh. I'll throw Pittsburgh out there. They don't want Pittsburgh to get a set like this. That's for sure. Any other non, like Dallas. Let's go football rivalries here. They don't want Dallas having this. That's for damn sure. So. They're very, they take pride and ownership of these kind of sets. So yeah, it's probably not coming back. They know what they have with it in the latter part of the set, and they know exactly what you were saying before, the build that gets to it, and just that moment that it brings. This is just a very special moment. So it, obviously you got to play by the books, and if you're going to play by the books, then what follows Black? Like
but still, Black is still, it just might be their best song.
That is a great argument, and I think you can make an argument for probably the 10 songs that we ended up with on Deprogram. Black was one of them, so I'm fine opening up that argument any day of the week. However, I think there are more important things to talk about, or equally important things to talk about. It's just, again, going into Jeremy, everything is just seamless. It feels like you're putting on headphones and you're listening to the damn thing. And, like, Jeremy is another one of those songs. When has Jeremy ever been the 6th song in a set? Like 1993, maybe? It doesn't happen.
This not is very often.
Really, right. This is really kind of a unicorn here. It's one of those songs where maybe late in the main set you'll get it and it'll kind of rev your crowd back up, or you'll get it in the encore to bring that same energy. And it has the encore energy here. I thought that Jeremy was actually, like, Mike is running up and down the stage, kind of like really being the life force for the band. Really cool visuals, and you see the crowd jumping up and down and kind of taking in the whoa, like they're taking all that stuff in. And I wasn't kind of counting time signatures or anything like that, but did you feel like this went on a little bit longer than usual versions of Jeremy do?
It's hard to tell because they mix it up so much, and sometimes
you might just get
is
so
doubled,
lost in
and
it.
sometimes and then sometimes the whoa part just he'll drag it on and on. And this kind of did feel like one of those, because you mentioned there's that they show the crowd for a minute and everyone is pogoing, and I'm thinking like, God, imagine being on that stage and seeing that, and like you've just come off playing Black and Alive, and here you're getting this other huge monster live song, and this crowd is just throwing it back at you, everything that you're giving them. And it must have been just a super special moment for the band as well. Like, I gotta think they just having a blast up there, just breaking out all these songs back to back to back to back.
Now, your side A, these are like, I mean, every night you can get each of these songs every night, not bat an eye, and not even think that you just got the full, like, they can play once at the end of the main set, they can play Jeremy in an encore, they can play Why Go to open, they can play Even Flow in Even Flow spot, they can play Alive where it usually is like second to last, third to last. And you wouldn't bat an eye that you would get all 6 of these songs. Now you're starting to get into some of these that are a little bit harder to find. Oceans is the hardest to find from 10. It hasn't even been played 100 times. That's absurd. They've been around for 30 years. Oceans should have been played a little bit more, but Oceans is the least Pearl Jammy of these songs.
However, we know of. We should asterisk that we know of.
That we know, absolutely, because there are set lists from 1991, 1992 that we have no information on, that we're always looking for information on. So if you're keeping something from us, stop, and maybe we can get a credit with the band or get a credit with at least Live Footsteps, because we're always looking for stuff to help Dave out over there.
Email us with the subject Detective Agency.
Yes. Yep, we're on the case.
Like that. Yep.
Live on Four Legs is on the case, always. So we're at side B now, and Oceans, again, not usually at this part of the set. You're used to it as an opener, or even sometimes in the encore, it'll pop up as sort of that first to kind of slow burn and bring you back in, the campfire set. But I thought that this was a pretty moving version of Oceans. Like it sometimes Oceans can feel a little bit empty, and it could feel like maybe like a guitar is a little off or something like that, or it's a little light. But like this feels like every moving piece is in motion to make it feel complete. And that's from a former co-host that has been on the show that hates this song, that has always been his biggest complaint with it, is that he thinks that there's something empty in the song. I thought that this was as complete a version of Oceans as I've ever heard.
And we're all alive to dream of the years. Oh, the next time we talk.
this is fantastic, and I think it. Again, the B-side songs that we're talking about here, with the exception of Porch, obviously, I think are elevated. I think by the performance of being in here as a whole. I think like the band, like I've talked about on almost every song, the band is riding such a high, the crowd is riding such a high. I think it elevates your oceans and gardens and deeps to heights that they don't normally reach when they're solo in a set or when they're surrounded by other songs.
They're locked in just a little bit more.
Yeah. But this, like, the build up at the end of Oceans is, it's fantastic. One of the best heard in a long, long time. Yeah, do not skip over Oceans when you listen to this. Very, very good.
Inspired performance, absolutely. Like there's obviously coming off of everything, the energy, like you said, it's built up to a moment like this. Start side B of the record, you started off the right way. Now, I'm going to throw this out at you because this has obviously been a very hot topic of this show. So, if you're in their position, would you have A, Fast Porch, go right into it, or B, because I think that this is important and this is what they do here, they transition from Oceans into Bluesy Porch and kind of give you that riffy beginning and don't start you out with a kick in the ass like they did back in 1992. They don't do it that way. It's not the traditional album version. It is the quintessential 2000s version of Porch. Which would you have wanted? I mean, or which would you, let's rephrase that. Which do you think works the most in this instance?
Yeah, when I heard this, I had a feeling this question was coming. And I think it would have been a nice nod to the album to do 1, 2, 3, 4, Fast Porch and go. But
yeah,
at least this isn't like a slow Porch blues. It's a fast Porch blues. Like
they do get you right. There's no lingering with it at all.
Yeah, it's sped up as much as they do it these days.
Is this for? Running to you, dear. Leave a message and me stop. Couldn't learn your voice one last time. Daily might feel this could be my time by you. Would you hit me? Would you hit me?
Yeah, I think it would have been cool to throw in the original, because we talked about we've gotten the original intro to Go, like the little jazzy thing before Go.
Sure.
They've thrown in little things like that, like the Master Slave here, and it would have been a cool moment to get the 1, 2, 3, 4, but because they just don't do it anymore. But not to be.
Yeah, I think it might have been a little wonky from the transition into something like Oceans that's a little bit more mid-tempo and kind of has more of a harmonized way about it. Like how it's tougher to go from that into 1, 2, 3, 4, what the fuck is this world completely live than it is on the record, because on the record you kind of have some finality to songs, but this is, you're not switching tracks. This is all seamless. This is all one in a row, one to the other. So getting that intro before Porch kind of builds you into the faster guitars, the heavier guitars that come through.
So you're saying you prefer it this way. You're happy they did it this way.
I'm saying that I would have liked to see Fast Porch. Of course, I've been dying for it since this has become a hot topic on this show. However, I understand why they did it this way.
Of course,
that's what I'll put out there, and I don't, I say it as food for thought to get people thinking about what they're thinking about, and less about like what I want and what my preferences are. Like everybody can create their own mentality from that. this.
And we should mention too, Ed is wearing his Who shirt, and
Yes.
that brings back, memories
Tommy.
of Tommy. That was always the album that was played all in full by the Who.
Yeah.
And the Porch Blues is straight from My Generation Blues, which is also the Who.
Yep.
So there's a thread there if you want to connect that.
That is 100% there. Yep, absolutely. There's no doubt about it. Porch is kind of like Black, though, where when is Porch in the middle of a set? Even when they were doing this in 1992, this was the closer every single night.
Yeah.
Porch is still the closer every single night. So to get something that has such a finality to it, and then have to follow it up with Garden, which obviously it's a different idea because it is the album. Like, how do you think that they managed that here? How do you think that they kind of took the approach? Because it's not like it's a 10-minute version of Porch, but it doesn't linger at all. That's for sure.
Yeah, it was. It's just Stone again. I felt like I'm just watching Stone on this, and it felt like a throwback to just Stone just guiding everything. He was in charge of this.
Yeah, I mean, Stone was pretty much in charge of these whole 11 songs. Like, this is his wheelhouse. These are the songs that he wrote. This was his band at this time. So if you want a Stone show, look no further. Like, this is it. What came to kind of my mind here is that, as they would in any big closing spot, they bring the orbs down, and kind of Ed bringing out the guitar to do like the light shine off the guitar.
Yeah.
But Ed doesn't go into the crowd. He doesn't kind of do his going up to the barricade and holding somebody's hand and holding up the mic to somebody. He doesn't do any of that, which it feels like, maybe save that for when Porch is the show-stopping main event of the night.
Oh, someone gets the mic later. We'll talk about that.
We'll talk about that. Yeah, we'll definitely talk about that. We're on to Garden, I think, now, though. We got 3 more in this album. I think Garden was always kind of going to be the toughest to dissect from this, because it is Porch into Garden doesn't quite live work that way. You're going from Oceans, Porch, Garden, those 3, when you talk about the rises and falls, it's a little bit herky-jerky. And I think Garden, out of the bunch, is probably the one that they seem least confident with. There were parts of it where Ed was completely lost. You get to like that last transition going into the final chorus of the song, and Ed just loses it. He looks back and he's like, what was that? Like, it's definitely not a song that they're playing every night at this point. And it makes me wonder, because 2 nights later at the Garden, the second night in the Garden, they bring it back, and I don't remember any flaws from that version. So that might have been because they're playing in the Garden, so they have to play a song called Garden in the Garden. Duh, obviously. And B, because I think they always like to try and have a redemption at a song when they don't feel like they get it 100% right the first time.
Yeah.
Outside of, like, it's not like it's a miserable performance or anything like that.
Yeah.
It's just
Mike's fantastic on it.
Yeah, right. Like, it brings you to where you want to be with Garden. It's just, that this was the one. There's always going to be one that they struggle with just a little bit, from when they botched the Who You Are intro and made it the In My Tree intro, which actually is just kind of artistically amazing, to Binaural. I think they screwed up Rival or Sleight of Hand. I can't remember. One of those they screwed up. But there's always one where they're just like, this is the one we're not so sure of. Even going back to like Glorified G, where they were like Mike kind of pumped his fist in Greenville. Right. That was the one that they were really concerned with there. I think Garden is probably the one at this show. So
yeah, definitely.
All right, Deep and then Release. Now Deep is the one I kind of teed this up before, because Deep is not a song that they usually play at shows anymore. I would say they probably play Oceans more often than Deep. However, in 2016, Deep was being played way more than they had played it in the past. They had already played it twice before this night, and it was like, 3 weeks or so that they were on tour before that. I think the tour started on the 10th or 11th of the 8th of April, I should say. I think that was in Fort Lauderdale.
Yeah.
Or Miami. Can't remember either one. But they ended up playing it 7 times overall in 2016, which feels like a lot for a song like Deep that really doesn't leave the Dave A era as much.
Yeah, it's interesting. And you wonder if they knew that they were gonna have something like this up their sleeve, and you never know why songs come back. It could just be Ed threw it on the set list one night, it sounded good, so he kept going back to it. It could just be something that simple.
Sure.
Or it could have been someone in the band, it could have been Matt or someone been hey, I feel like that one's good. Let's try that one again. So yeah, there's songs pop into the wave and the current and stick around and then drop off. So yeah, it's just interesting that this is the one for this time. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it also could do with just the idea that 10 is that kind of record that everybody is waiting for stuff off of. And when you think of, no pun intended, deep cuts, Deep is one of the deeper ones on this record. So not only do they fulfill one of the rarities and one of the collectible songs, but they fulfill something that they know that everybody can appreciate off of their biggest album. So it kind of checks a lot of boxes there. And it's a good performance. I don't really usually think too much of versions of Deep once you get past Jack. There are some pretty good performances with Jack, but they completely drop it after 95. Dave's the drummer for me on this song, but as far as a late era version of Deep goes, I thought that this was a pretty solid performance.
Christmas clean, Lord, you're virgin heaven. What is it in hell to the man above her? He just ain't nothing, and she doesn't like, she doesn't like, she doesn't. But it sticks yourself.
Mentioned the drummers, and we got to talk about Matt Cameron. We haven't mentioned him yet.
I thought he did a little bit, but yes, he had a tremendous show.
Yes, watching the stream, the view of Matt, where you see him from behind, and some of you have gotten to see a show from behind, sitting in those seats. I have not, so this was kind of a new thing for me. Matt Cameron's a fucking robot. He expends no extra energy when he's drumming. His torso is perfectly still throughout these whole songs. It's all arms. He is not wasting any energy at all throughout these shows. And that's what you have to do when you're playing these shows night in, 2 shows in 3 nights, 3 shows in 5 nights. That's a lot of songs. That's a lot of hours. And shout out to him for working on being that disciplined that he can, that's how he does it. He just doesn't waste any energy. Every motion has a purpose with Matt Cameron, and he's got it down to a science, and it was amazing to watch.
And now we're at the part of the set where we're ending 10 and we're getting to Release, and we finally get to hear from Ed that gets to kind of take a second and take this all in. Sip some wine, say hi. Before we start the next one, we've been thinking about this a lot, and there have been requests from good folks that have been going through pain and need healing who have wanted this one.
It's no surprise because it's just part of life. We cannot avoid the grave, and we can prolong it the best we can. But you never know if it's going to be something sudden, something senseless. You might be able to expect it, but that probably is not going to help the sadness. And I know that some of us out there, we've lost brothers, we've lost fathers, we've lost sisters, we've lost kids. And this song was about losing a pop, and this song was it's one of those healing songs, but and it's not gonna lessen the blow of any kind of tragedy, but it loud volumes, or alone, or with a lot of other people. Sometimes it just helps you get through, because you can't get around it. You don't get over it. You don't get under it. You got to get through it, or else it never goes away. So this one goes out to, there's two brothers in the audience, and they lost their brother, Colin McGovern, and we just want to send this out to your friend, dear Colin, and thank you.
There are always these little nuances where, he'll sing an "Oh Dear John, Can You See Us Now?" Like, he'll sing somebody's name in the song, and that's his subtle hint that is for somebody. But here he actually is able to reference somebody and make this a dedication, which makes the song that much more powerful.
And this moment kind of in between Deep and Release, where there's a pause finally, and this crowd finally gets to show their appreciation and finally take a breath and just be like, oh my God, yes. And yeah, it's that sort of everyone in the crowd just kind of oh, okay, this is the, again, they're just pushing that thank you back onto the band. And I think of this and that during that speech that you mentioned, Ed breaks down a little bit talking about loss and everything. It's a powerful moment. And yeah, playing through all these songs, I'm sure has brought back a bunch of those emotions for him as well. I feel like it's almost like this is the beginning of the show now. It's almost like Once Through Deep is the preset, right? It's when you used to have those CDs, and you would, if you hit rewind before the first track, it would play the negative. You would have those the songs in negative. It's that has all been the preset up until Release, and now Release is kind of resetting this show, and this is the opener, and we're gonna go on from here. It's interesting how that worked out.
Ed is certainly choked up in this, and especially in the performance. When you got him thinking about losing loved ones, and it seems like there's always somebody in somebody's life in the band that they are thinking about at that moment, and that's why Release does get played so often, is that it's usually for a reason, or they're thinking about somebody either from the immediate that they had lost currently, or that they had lost a long time ago. When you think about a place like Chicago, that's usually for Ed's dad, and it's the same kind of emotion when they bring it into situations and they're playing it for somebody else that needs the song the same way that Ed would, or the same way that somebody else in the band would need the song in their moments. And it's it's beautiful. It's really a great way to cap off this tremendous album showcase.
Can you see yours now? Why am I still like you? Somehow, while we're out in the dark, for you to speak to me,
The fans are appreciative of it, and like it's just one of those things where you go back and it's never going to be a show that doesn't get mentioned. It's always going to be in the conversation. It doesn't matter what era it's in. Like we could be talking about this 10 years later and say like that was still special, and you can go back and listen to that now and have it still feel the same way. I mean, these album shows are always going to have that just because they are, I don't like to use the word gimmicky, but they do have that substance of understanding and knowing what to anticipate. And that in a live standpoint doesn't usually happen. If you like an album, then you're going to like 11 songs in a row or 12 songs in a row. You're going to like that whole entire section. It doesn't usually happen that way. Maybe on another night, they could have played like, you know, a song from Lightning Bolt or a song from Backspacer that you could have said, that took me out of it a little bit. But here, you get exactly what you were listening to when you were maybe 13, 14 years old that sparked your fire and passion for this band. And like we mentioned before, the reason why you're probably here. So amazing moment. They've only done this twice, only twice. We'll go back to mentioning Munich in a little bit, but let's get the rest of this main set, because there is another part of this main set into this. And Ed addresses, like we mentioned at the beginning of the show, he addresses the banner.
All right, we did that together. That was really. When we woke up this morning, we had no idea that was going to happen, that we were going to do that. But then I got a picture and they decided, because they're just being very extremely kind, but they said we're going to make a flag for y'all to hang in the rafters, and then. And then I saw that number, and it was like, I think we got to do it.
It's the crowd and the band, like, going back and forth, and the energy one is given to the other. And you could really tell that Ed felt that, and he acknowledged that. That was cool.
Yeah, he uses the word intense for a Philadelphia crowd. He says it's an intense crowd, but everybody seems to get along and love each other. And when that happens, it can be really powerful. That I think that, you know, the city of brotherly love. He brought that up at some point. It might have been this speech. It might have been another one. I think this was a part where once he gets to the Springsteen stuff, he kind of rambles a little bit and he's starting to do accents. Happens a couple of times in this show. So, but yeah, the Bruce stuff is funny. Like he's kind of mimicking.
He does a good Bruce.
Yeah. Say there, Ed. Hey, that's pretty cool. You did 10 shows. Hey, now you got to do 20. You can't catch up to me now. And he kind of makes a reference like, oh, we got to play 4 shows here for the next 10 years, and then we'll be caught up to Bruce. And obviously mentioning 4 by number is a direct reference to the Spectrum. So how many shows have they played in Philadelphia since? Big goose egg, but anything can happen. You know, obviously Philly's one of the ones that has to be on a lot of people's bucket lists. And I've seen the show in Philly before. They deliver, absolutely. And
it'll come around again.
Without a doubt. Breaker Fall, Corduroy are the ones that get you back into the set with the fast-paced energy that you're looking for. I don't know if he's subconsciously thinking to himself, opening this with Breaker Fall by saying like, hey, maybe Binaural is on deck. I don't think there can be any of that in here. But
there, yeah, that's interesting. Right.
But Toronto is not that far on the horizon. It's only like maybe 10 or 12 days away.
If you had been there, would you have thought you were going to get the double, like just do both albums back to back?
Oh my god, that would have been exhausting.
Yeah,
that would have been so exhausting.
Split the set after Nothing As It Seems and come back for the encore with Light Years and go on from there. Yeah, and the set with Parting Ways. Just do the both of them. But yeah, I mean it doesn't get 180 degrees different from 10 than Breaker Falls. So yeah, it's like complete left turn. You need a change of pace. So yeah, Break or Fall is perfect here. I thought it was cool.
Corduroy,
Well done.
yeah, Corduroy, the same thing. Like you're just gravitating towards that energy, and you're gravitating towards getting the crowd to contain that, because maybe they're thinking in the other shows like, all right, how do we bring, now they've done this a couple of times, how do we bring the crowd back after all this? Because if you're in the crowd, and maybe you can tell me from going to the Versus show, you have to be thinking to yourself like, oh my God, how the hell do they top that? Are you in euphoric state, or are you in like, what the hell happens now? Like, is everything like gold from there on out? You're just enjoying and celebrating the night?
I think it's all a bonus. I just remember like,
Okay.
you're just floating. Like, yeah, I remember some things about the rest of the Greenville show, but mostly it's that feeling of the hearing those songs all back to back to back, and you're just like, oh yeah, everything after this is gravy.
You have to put it together another set list. Like it sort of has to
come
be
and do a
separated
20 minute blues jam. Like, I don't care.
Sure. But again, for this crowd, after Breaker for All and Corduroy, Breaker for All, I would consider a more uncommon track. They go right into Who You Are. And it's interesting because I mentioned it before, the Moline show, Who You Are was really the moment where everybody kind of took notice, and they're like, this is really a thing. No code is really happening right now. And I don't think it even made an indent on anybody's mind that it could happen at that time. So I wonder if that's a throwback to that.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, we know how Ed does these. He could have thrown in all these little references, and the next two songs, obviously, the record songs played in Greenville as well. But yeah, Who You Are, like, this is the final time they played it to date. Like, it didn't come back for 2018. So this is the last time. So yeah, you might be onto something there.
Yeah,
could have just been like a one-off, like, hey, let's throw this one in as a nod to that one.
A lot of good backing vocals in this one. Very, very good. Good performance.
Yeah, always.
Obviously they're going to play 3 more after this, so there needs to be some kind of song that's mid-tempo and balance everything out. And not only that, but you kind of get one for a lot of people that might be a collector song. It's only been played 44 times, I believe. So, for many, they can say to themselves, whoa, after all that, I got something from No Code. That's great. Again, you said gravy. It is good gravy, delicious gravy. And now you're getting to Ed giving a shout out to WMMR, who've been spinning records for a long time. And I think that is the same place that made Last Kiss famous, if I'm not mistaken. You know the whole story with that, right?
Yeah, it could be. That's interesting. I'd have to go back and look and see. Yeah, interesting.
Because I went back and I actually looked at the statistics on how often Last Kiss was played in Philadelphia, and going back to, playing Philadelphia proper, it seems like they are playing it. If they play 2 nights, it's almost a guarantee they'll play it every time. So that comes a little bit later in the set. I wonder if there is a connection with that. But Let the Records Play and Spin a Black Circle for the radio station. And there are only 2 Lightning Bolt songs played at the show, which is kind of interesting. This is still a Lightning Bolt tour show, so to speak. So, to get this one instead of like a Lightning Bolt or a Sirens or something like that is kind of unique in a way. But yes, they were packaging this a lot with Spin the Black Circle at the time.
We almost got a main set without any songs post binaural, but they got one in there on us.
Yep, they had to get one.
And Let the Records Play too. Last time it's been played to date. Did not come back in 2018 either.
Wow. But you know what? They kind of went out on a high because Mike's solo got pretty wild on this.
It absolutely did. Very, very good.
And Ed doing a little call letter thing at the end was pretty funny too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, good stuff. Now,
I like this.
Spin the Black Circle.
I like these 2 back to back. I really like it when they do this.
Yeah, no, it's a good throwback, and I think it would have lost a little luster. I don't think they've ever done it in the opposite order. It would lose a little luster if they went spin into Let the Records Play. Like, I think there is anticipation that we were both at that Memphis show where they did it. And I think I kind of knew that they had done it a little bit. So I'm like, oh, we better get Spin the Black Circle. When we do, it's great, because then it kind of turns into a real celebration of what they're trying to get across and who they're trying to dedicate towards. So Spin the Black Circle here is especially, look, the pacing on Spin the Black Circle you can look at it across all eras. This would be a very interesting one to do evolution-wise, to see, like, pacing-wise how fast it is, and like you could say how many RPMs it's at per performance. But this is pretty deliberate speed. Like, this is like not your just complete run around in a circle, even though Mike does, and it's amazing. This is not your complete, like, blistering fast version of Spin the Black Circle, and it kind of gives it a little bit of air and allows a little bit extra energy to feel during those kind of opened up moments.
I love this song so much, and I don't care if sometimes they play it too fast. This is more like you said, kind of like an album pace almost. And this when that riff hits, it's so good. They can play it slow, they can play it fast. I love this song so much. It's low key one of their best songs. I think every time it comes up, I always like turn it up and go nuts. And again, like, we get some Jeff and Mike shenanigans here, very, very cool. And this is the one where we get a lucky fan in the front row.
We do, yeah. And I'm pretty sure I know who that fan is, but I'm not going to make any mention because I don't want to get it wrong. But I kind of think I know who it is.
Okay.
Yeah, very, very cool. Like, they were very emphatic when they were given the opportunity to go on microphone there. And who wouldn't be in that moment? That's for sure.
Yeah, I would love it.
So obviously great stuff, and that's getting into evolution right here. And it's all like 20 minutes after 10, and then you're going to stop. Then you're going to pause for a little bit. And that's kind of crazy to me because it just feels, it's like an hour and a half, but it feels like it almost happened in 45 minutes, like instantaneously, that all of this kind of went down. And I think evolution is a great way to end here because you don't have your end cappers like you would like with Porch or even something like Once. You don't have one of those. So evolution, I always felt, is kind of like an ellipsis song where it can kind of prepare you for what's next instead of sort of make the main set put like a final stamp on it. So I like the usage of it here.
Okay. Yeah, cool. Very good. And it's almost like, I mentioned release is kind of like a reset. You're almost like, wait, they're done. That was quick, because it feels like release just started. Like, no, like, play more. Like, you're still gonna go, right? Yeah, that would have felt weird to me. But do the evolution. It's one of those chameleon songs that it can open, it can close a set, it can anywhere. It's fantastic. And yeah, this version does not disappoint.
Yep, South American chants, everything like that, everything you love out of Do the Evolution is just fantastic. We are at the encore now. It took a while for us to get here, but there's obviously sometimes it does that, and I think we did it with good reason today. Had a lot to talk about, but here we're going to talk and just kind of promote the website a little bit. And if you're listening to this on Friday, it's up, it's launched. If you're listening to this by Thursday, then hey, come and celebrate with us. We're launching Thursday night through Zoom. Our Zoom event that we're doing will feature the ribbon cutting, so to speak, of liveon4legs.com, where we've been working on a concertpedia and really kind of filling in the dead space that has been left since 2 Feet Thick and Five Horizons had kind of stopped doing their thing there. And we thought that because we're doing all this for the podcast, it would make sense that we would be ones to kind of follow in this footsteps to be in charge of all this. And I take great pride in doing that.
Yeah, it feels like kind of a natural extension of what we're doing. And yeah, if you're listening to this, like you said, on either late Thursday or Friday, yeah, go to liveon4legs.com for obviously the number 4. Yeah, check it out. Take a look around. Check out some of the reviews that people have written, check out some of the content on there, and just let us know what you think. Just, let us know that you went and looked at it. Yeah, we're very excited. It's been a lot of work, and, you and I and Chris Everett have, countless hours on this thing. So we're really hoping that people really get a kick out of it, and that it really kind of fills that kind of need in your heart that's been missing since those other 2 sites you mentioned haven't been active anymore.
Yeah, and the one thing I want to stress is that we want to be a website, and we always kind of feel like we need to be a podcast for the people that can speak to the people's voice. If there's something that you yourself think that you want to write for this, that you think needs some love in the Pearl Jam world that isn't being paid attention to enough. And like, by God, just come up with something, just write something, and we will post it. We're not looking to do things like posting what Jeff is doing on a Sunday afternoon. We're not looking to do things like that. Other publications can do that, and I'm totally cool with that. I love that stuff. But we want to attack Pearl Jam from all different angles here, and like we've been doing on the podcast, take what we've been thinking about, take the history of the band, and take just obstacles that maybe nobody else has ever even considered, and putting pen to paper and letting the world kind of understand what's going on in your mind and your thoughts through the band. So that's sort of, if that's something that interests you, get in touch with us, liveonfourlegspodcast@gmail.com, or there'll be ways to contact us through the website as well. And let's get something going, because we're always interested in looking for blog writers. We want people to start working on blogs. We want people could always use more people to review shows. We're starting to write up some 2012 to 2011 stuff right now. So that's all stuff that you're interested in. Get in touch with us. And look, I mean, this also, we kind of ride off of the patrons here too, and thank all of them for really believing in us during this time. And there's a lot of people that joined up to the Horizon leg, and we're hoping with the donations to really finally get in motion and be able to promote this in ways that we haven't promoted the podcast before, with good SEO and starting to really use social media advertising on this as well, that we haven't utilized in the past. So hopefully all that kind of comes into fruition. Hopefully new faces and new voices are seeing this all the time. And if you are brand new, welcome. And we can't wait for you to enjoy all this great stuff that we've been working on. But it's a new phase for the show, and it's not just a show anymore. It's sort of a life of its own. It's kind of like a Pearl Jam fan lifestyle kind of thing, I guess. But we try to make it as different as possible.
Like I said, it's been a lot of hard work, and we hope that shows through. So we hope you guys get a kick out of reading it and kind of reliving some of the moments in the shows like that we talk about on the show. It's kind of like I said, it's like a natural extension of the podcast. So hope you guys enjoy it.
And if there are podcast episodes that you think that you may have missed, everything will be on that website. It'll be like archived and chronologized in ways that you can easily find things, and maybe there'll be some surprises. Some of the blogs that we're putting out this week will be about 10 and No Code. Like we mentioned before, people's love letters to both those records and how they've kind of impacted their lives, as well as we're going to do 2 separate articles: the best live songs from 10, the best live performances of all the album tracks, and then the same for No Code as well. So if you're looking for something to do to fill your 9-to-5 office job and to read when your boss isn't looking in your cubicle, then I invite you to come and join us over at liveonfourlegs.com. If you'd like to contribute and donate to the show, donate to the website, I like to invite you to Patreon. We've been doing some donations for the projectmatters.org, and what they've been doing, we're doing an event prior to See Here Now. It's on the Friday. It's called Short Stock, and all the proceeds will go to this wonderful charity. We'll be talking about it at the Zoom event on Thursday night. If you're interested in that, and you haven't been a patron already, like we will say right now that anything that gets donated to us after this episode and for the rest of August, we will double that amount, and that'll get donated. Our whole entire September donation will get donated to the projectmatters.org. And we're very, very excited. If you want to go check them out, just go to that website. It's a wonderful organization. Karen does a great job running things there, and she has such an amazing story to tell. So if you're coming on Thursday, just get ready to have a Kleenex box in front of you, because she's got some great stories to tell. Like, it just heartwarming and heart-wrenching. Absolutely. So hope to see you all there, though. The party, reach out to us to get the link. Patreon.com/liveonfour. I know I'm going all over the place right now. I'm going all over the place, but if you want to donate to that, we will double what you send us. If it's within the $1, $5, $10 tier, we will match that. Patreon.com/liveonfourlegs or the Patreon app. Just search Live on Four Legs and we are there. Those are all the things that are going down this week. Obviously celebrating the love for the 30th and 25th anniversary of 10 and No Code respectively. But I think we can get back into the show, right? We got more show, amazingly. Ed kind of taunts the crowd and asks if they are tired. Maybe they need to get home. Maybe they need to get to a babysitter. Keeps kind of going and, nearly says something kind of dumb, but he catches himself. I honestly can't remember what it was in reference to, but he caught himself and he kind of changed the conversation there. But he starts telling the story about playing the song B-Girl at Rockline and said they were drinking a lot. And this is the song that came out of it. So, hey, if you listened last week to the Boston episode, the first two out of the encore were B-Girl and Just Breathe. The first two out of this core, B-Girl and Just Breathe. It is unchanged. It is probably Alive on Four Legs first if we weren't doing back-to-back 1992 shows or some shit like that. So B-Girl, I think we said it last week, like it's pretty unchanged live. I think it gets a better reaction than most versions. I think that it's a smarter crowd here. So I think they're able to kind of sing along a little bit more and know the cues a little bit more than another crowd would. However, Just Breathe has an interesting intro, and then that's it. Last week we saw the kind of version out of Just Breathe that we enjoy, and this week we don't. So let's kind of start by saying that the other artist that he tries to mimic the night is Willie Nelson.
Yes, I understand. Every life must end. As we sit alone, I know someday we must go. Once you hear his, it's hard to sing it normal, but I'll try.
It was Willie Nelson's birthday that day. If you remember back when, probably about 10 years ago, him and his son Luke did a version of Just Breathe, and it's very Willie Nelson-like, and Ed, of course, has to, because he's on stage alone, and that's going to be a tee-up, he does the whole Willie Nelson shtick. And it's pretty funny. It's funny, and he does impressions pretty good. But you want the band to come back and play the bass line, to play the B3, to kind of do the backing vocals that Matt does, and this is just Eddie solo here. So that's a little bit disappointing. I think we both enjoy the full-on version.
Definitely. And I think, and B-Girl too, I think any telling the story, I think, makes that a little better. I like when he lets us behind the curtain a little bit. And, people, and most people, we know the B-Girl story, but not everyone does. So getting
That's
a little
something they play often.
Getting a little behind the scenes info on that is always cool. I like when they kind of like let us in on some of these songs that aren't as popular and kind of tell a little bit of a story behind it. So that was cool. But yeah, Just Breathe, Willie Nelson. Like I don't care about Willie Nelson's version of Just Breathe. Like give me the one from last week. I'm happy, but it doesn't bother me. Again, the show, do whatever you want, man. They've built up the license to do whatever you want. Yeah.
This is kind of like when you score 10 runs in the first inning and you want to throw in some pinch hitters and pinch runners and
let the backup right fielder pitch, like bring in the third string catcher, like do whatever you want, man. The game's, it's in the bag.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. That's great. And you know what? Even with that, you still get a Riot Act song in All or None that almost never gets played. How great is that?
I think it might be the highlight of this encore.
Yeah, I'll give you that. I think the encore definitely has a little bit of a lull after it, but kind of picks back up a little bit. But yeah, All or None, I think maybe it's because it's sort of this rarity in the set, and when it pops up, it kind of takes you by surprise a little bit. It's dominated by the Stone rhythm and then a solo annihilation from Mike. Mm-hmm. That's such a big bounce back after kind of getting some of those, a little bit more common songs at the end of the main set, and then the B-Girl Just Breathe combo to begin the encore.
Yeah, and they're hitting that quota. They got the binaural song out earlier, and now they're getting the Riot Act song out, so they're hitting every album here.
Did they hit Avocado?
No.
So they almost fulfilled everything.
Almost.
But yeah, you can't try to hit all of them. It's very hard, especially when you play one full album. It's kind of amazing that 8 of the 9 others got some attention paid to them. But yeah, it's cool. And Riot Act, look, I would take one Riot Act song per show for sure. Absolutely. And especially All or None. That's another that 2 nights later at the second MSG show, they'd say, all right, want to do it again? Yeah, great. We don't do it that often.
Oh,
why not?
Should be played 3 times as often as it is. Yeah.
I agree. I fully agree with that. And, but now you the rest of this encore is stuff that you've probably seen live before, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that at all. Ed kind of mentions here he's borrowing a song from Roger Waters and brings up the Spectrum and how he wrote the song in the Spectrum, and mentions a father to a young boy that dealt with multiple medical procedures at just 2 months old, which is just not something I want to hear about when I have a baby that is approaching 2 months old. So I feel and totally connect with things like that. So I hope that if that person is listening in, or if anybody knows that person, that they and their family are doing well. Comfortably Numb goes into Mind Your Manners, which goes into Given a Fly. I think, the consensus on this show is that Comfortably Numb is just one of those just late era covers that doesn't give you a whole lot. That I think I enjoy it live, but listening to it on a bootleg, I can just listen to Pink Floyd and get the same thing.
Yeah, I was shocked to go back and look. It's only been played 22 times. It feels like we've covered it 50 times in the podcast.
Definitely, yes, it definitely feels like more.
Yeah. So yeah, but this, and again, I've seen it live, and I'll admit I did kind of tune out a little bit, like, oh, okay. Because I'm not familiar with Pink Floyd. It's not something I'm a big fan of. So, yeah, it's just I just don't get it. But it's for the people who get it, it's great.
Mind Your Manners here, like it feels like when Mind Your Manners was kind of being played post Lightning Bolt, and I use that as kind of like the 2016 2018 tour years as being sort of still trying to promote the record, but not as fervently. This one is one that probably gets played every other show, if not every. And I don't know, sometimes it's just kind of, all right, how can we transition? How can we get from Comfortably Numb into a song that's gonna really get the crowd back into the show? And Mind Your Manners can sometimes turn into a little bit of a layup because of that. And I didn't feel like that full growl from Ed. I didn't feel like that sense of urgency that the song has. It just sort of felt like the placeholder to get to Given a Fly, which had more of the substance, which had more of the response.
Yeah, it's like they just needed, we need a fast one here to break, so just throw it in. Yeah.
Yeah, and Given a Fly, I think, gives you exactly what you want from this part of the set and kind of ending your show, because now you have to think a lot of those songs that would be like Jeremy is out, and for a little bit later Porch is out, and we mentioned once before Why Go, like those are kind of chameleon songs and you can kind of throw those in anywhere. Maybe even Black in a late encore one. They're all gone, so you really have no other choice but to utilize Given a Fly, Daughter, and Rearview Mirror.
Yeah, and it feels like, in a normal show, this would be like, oh, it's 3 hits, but it feels like we've already gotten all the hits. So this is like what's left over. Yeah, it was,
sure.
But Given a Fly is great. Daughter is very fast.
Yeah, Daughter, especially in the tag, like they keep the same momentum in the tag, and then WMA is just kind of like an afterthought almost.
Mm-hmm. But then Rearview Mirror has a really cool intro. Like
the
it's
little
not,
teaser. Yeah,
it's not the slow arpeggiated thing that we've heard. It's a little bit of a different thing, and like the jam is great, but it's not like it's not a 13-minute version of Rearview Mirror. It's just it kind of is what it is. And
that's not saying Rearview Mirror wasn't Rearview Mirror like that. Sure. It still has that definitely that same vibe to it, but like you get Ed and Jeff jamming a little bit here. Like Matt, you want to talk about Matt stuff?
Cameron
mentioned
always.
Before.
Yeah.
Cameron is the winner on Rearview Mirror, and there's things in this like Ed doesn't necessarily reach that high plateau with the scream, that we all want from him, and that's okay. Sometimes it just doesn't happen. You gotta expect 2016. His voice isn't like how it is in 1994. Like those versions of Rearview Mirror.
Can we talk about this cover of Drive that was just released?
Yeah, it was a little rough.
The voice does not sound good. The voice is starting to go. People.
It doesn't feel like he's singing. It feels like he's just kind of speaking and doing his Ed Mumble.
I don't know. It doesn't sound good.
That finishes off your Encore 1, and you're getting an Encore 2 here that, again, like there are some things you almost never get, but then you go back to the rest of the standard stuff that is left in their arsenal. So immediately they're addressing the back, and Ed's wearing a Pete Rose jersey. I should mention that. And he says, I met him last year and I had to wear it because he bet me that I couldn't.
Yeah, exactly.
Come on. Come on. Lay up that joke.
Too easy.
So playing this for the back, and that's where Last Kiss comes in, which we mentioned before is like kind of a fan favorite in Philadelphia because that's where the song really got its heavy rotation radio play back in 99, like when it first came out for Kosovo.
And they play it to the back. So they've seen the back of Matt Cameron not move all night, so now they get to see the front of him. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Not move. And maybe his head kind of bounces a little bit, but that's it. So yeah, it's a great connection with that. And I love here, and I don't know if this is just Mike just saying, all right, like finish Last Kiss and we have a second before Better Man. I'm going to play a little Led Zeppelin for you. And that bridges you into Better Man. I think we're on a really good hot streak with Better Man right now.
Oh.
Like this is Better Man
never fails when the crowd starts singing. It makes your hair stand up. Like it's always very, very cool and just a special moment. Like I never get tired of hearing it.
Now, with Black being out of the conversation here, is Better Man the last that can do this in this moment of the original songs, at least?
Probably.
Because you utilized a couple others there. Like you're not going to go to an elderly woman here. That's a little bit too late for it. Like Daughter's done, Given to Fly is done.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you have another one in their catalog that can elicit all that.
Present tense, maybe, but yeah.
For the spot, I think it's a little bit of a reach for the spot.
Yeah.
It's just a tremendous version. You know, like you hear the crowd singing over it, and there's no official tag on it, just a lot of jamming and windmilling and just getting a big ending treatment instead of kind of breaking it down and breaking it into parts. Like
the celebration of the show starts early. I mean, it started in song number 3 and it just didn't stop.
Right. And especially like you're only getting 2 more Pearl Jam songs from this show. So like you have to have one more big moment within their catalog before you say goodbye. And that's the one. And then out of that, when you hear that bass line opening up to Leash, like that's another holy shit kind of moment. You're still busting out a couple of these rare songs to throw the collector's way. Like how is that even possible at this point? That you would think Rockin' in the Free World, yo, Ledbetter, let's end this shit. But Leash is here. It feels like we haven't even covered Leash in such a long time either.
Yeah,
like at
it
least
feels like it always gets scratched
era.
off with the shows that we talk about. It's always on the set list and scratched off. So yeah, even with Lucky Face, it's still cool. Like again, this crowd in it, Leash is, for all intents and purposes, a 10 song. So yeah, throw it in there as kind of a bonus. And yeah, it's on Versus, but it's the first one written after 10. And yeah, it's a nice little nod to the earlier part of the show that, you would get like a 91 or 92 set where you're getting all these songs. You get Leash too, so it's nice of them to throw it in there. Yeah,
right. It's a 10 era song by, not by album, but by identity in a way, because they played it so often back then. And then once Versus came out, it sort of was put by the wayside. So yeah, playing Leash. along with the other ones, and we'll talk about Munich. We didn't even talk about Munich. Holy crap, we forgot to talk about Munich when we talked about Patreon. That's a sell for you guys. If you want to join Patreon right now, if you're listening to this on Wednesday or Thursday, you won't get it right now, but you'll get it in days. You'll get it in literally a day or two. We will have the Munich 1992 show where they did 10 for the first time, and then they had to do an encore with the leftovers, and Leash was one of the leftovers. Yeah. Spoiler alert.
Go sign up right now. We'll wait.
We're here. We'll wait. You can listen to a couple of Evolution episodes. We'll sit here and wait. All right, welcome back. Thank you for doing that. You were gracious enough, and now you're part of the team, and welcome aboard, everyone. So let's get back into this show. Before we cheese this up even more, Ed talks a little bit about a song they recorded with Neil, and they're donating money to a few charitable organizations, bringing up Thomas Young and his book that was coming out at the time. And this is a song that they don't do normally that they're going to play for Neil, Throw Your Hatred Down. Now, they would bust this out a little bit more in 2018 when it felt like they were starting to kind of bring more of the political activism thing on the home and away shows. They played in Seattle, they played it in Missoula, and they played it in Chicago, and it felt like kind of a signal for the 2018 midterms that this was kind of dedicated for that. But like, this is a nice surprise near the end of the show here. Another one.
Yeah, this is the exact opposite of Comfortably Numb. I love this. And like these two covers back to back, like that's what I want from covers from them. I know Throw Your Hatred Down they played on it, so you know it is right. It's half and half, but it's still like I love when they break out Mirrorball songs. I love that this has stuck around in 2018, and I hope it sticks around in 2021 and 22 and then going forward. Like if there's a piano solo, like this is fantastic.
Another big Stone solo alert too.
Yeah.
How about that? Stone gets really, really, really dirty in this version, and we'll leave that for the ending credits for you because, boy, yeah, you have to listen to that. So we'll tease you a little bit. Wait until we say goodbye, and then you'll get a little bit more of it. But feel good moments, moments all around.
How about for the next album if they bring out Neil and play Mirrorball front to back?
I'd die. I'd just die, especially if I was there.
Just sweep me up off the floor and throw me in the trash at that point.
Yeah, that would absolutely be a treat. Maybe Ed gets sick again, and Neil happens to be in attendance. You never know. Weirder shit has happened.
Maybe Mountain View, make a return to Mountain View.
Hey, look, that's not the worst place to do it. Maybe you do it in Canada too. Do it up in Winnipeg, or around where Neil's from. I think he's from Winnipeg, right? Something like that. Sonic producer Bob O'Reilly. Sonic is extremely fast.
Lights up.
Yeah, house lights are up and kind of signal this Sonic producer is alive. Yep. How fucking crazy is that? Sonic producer.
Bread and butter. Oh, if Sonic producer was bread and butter, oh my god.
Right? Imagine that.
Take me to that universe.
It kind of wasn't that where Sonic producer was played at the Atlanta show, like around near the end of the set.
Yep.
I don't know if it's a throwback to that, but it is a great choice for going Sonic producer Bob O'Reilly back to back, like continuing that energy. Is it weird for you not having a live here? It's the elephant in the room.
So.
Just because I almost said to myself when I looked at the end, like, oh, that's weird. It's missing something. But then I caught myself. I'm like, oh, I know why it's missing something because it's all the fucking purpose of why we're doing this.
It's the covers. I mean, it's covers are us. You know, you're getting the Throw Your Hatred Down, like the rare one. You're getting Sonic Producer. You're getting like the early, the punk rock one, and you're getting Bob O'Reilly, the classic rock one, the big crowd moment one. So you're getting a taste of all three, kinds of covers that they do here. I think it's well done. Yeah, I don't think you need a live here.
Yeah, and to use other original songs in the spot that aren't alive is extremely rare. It just doesn't happen at all.
Oh yeah, if they had done like a Life Wasted or something, you'd have been like, huh?
A little weird, yeah. Or like a lightning bolt to end your show.
Yeah.
Something that has like an anthemic feel to it, but doesn't quite get that rise that you would expect at the end of the show. No, Sonic producer Bob O'Reilly does exactly that. Matt just sounds effortless at the end of Bob O'Reilly. Fantastic.
You know what? Maybe an animal. Maybe an animal. Or a
Animal's
go.
so quick. A go will do it.
maybe.
Go will do.
Those would be the only two now that I think of it that could have done it.
Animal's so quick though.
But if they played it like they could do something with Animal and make it work, I think.
This is a good conversation to have. But again, we're at the last song, so yeah, Yellow Ledbetter, I think Ed kind of mentions we'll have to come back. We have to catch up to Bruce, so we'll see you all soon. And Ed's just, great moment, just waiting for the crowd to sing and respond in the chorus to Ledbetter. Like, what more do you want? That is the capper of most great shows. Probably 80 to 90% of your great shows in the Pearl Jam lore are ending this way, and kind of put a finality, put like a stamp on what you're doing for the night. And, I think it's one last time for the band. We usually kind of look at from the crowd perspective from the band to look into the crowd and say, thank you for everything. And we'll never forget something like this.
Yeah. I mean, it was never going to be anything else.
Miss you already, he says, after Mike does a little bit of the Star Spangled Banner, throwing it out there, and gives a couple Coronas to fans in front. I don't know if you caught that, but that was kind of cool. And we have done it another full album show. If you've been following for a long time, you know that this is our fourth. We're missing Milwaukee of the big ones. We haven't done Torino yet. So if you're on a Live on Four Legs checklist, you can check this one off, and those are the two that you got left, especially with Munich coming up on Patreon pretty soon. How do we pick 3 moments from this show that stand out? And is there going to be anything that isn't off 10?
Well, I'm going to pick 3 moments that are not in songs.
Okay.
I'm going to go with Master Slave at the very, very beginning. I'm going to go with the moment in Alive when the crowd realizes what's happening, and that when Ed claps for the crowd, and there's like, it's just that rush of like, you feel everyone in the building go like, awesome,
Yeah.
And then my number 1 is that moment before release when they finally take a breath and like the crowd just gets to say thank you, and Ed, Ed kind of breaks down and talking about the song and the dedication, and yeah, those are my 3.
I definitely have those last 2 in there, but my number 3, I'm going to give the edge to Why Go, because there's something to be said for the one after the one where everybody figures it out. And I feel like for Moline, it was Smile. For Verses, it was probably Glorified G or Dissonant. For Binaural, it was a little tougher because it's not an album that everybody takes in the same way. So it's tougher to kind of figure out if it was Light Years or if it was Insignificance or something. A little bit tougher to figure that one out, but Why Go was the one where everybody was just in full-on party mode, and I loved watching that and loved hearing all the chants at the beginning. I thought that was fantastic. And yeah, I'm with you with Release. I think that's moment number 2. You're bringing an emotional aspect and kind of tying in what this record means to people. How important is that? Like, we had talked in the beginning of the show, bringing this back full circle here, why this record is important and why people can react to that. Maybe when you're in junior high school, first learning about the record in 1992, the songs that capture your attention are Jeremy and Even Flow and Alive, and maybe dipping into other ones. But when you get later on in life and things happen to you, and maybe even it's just going to shows and just experiencing Release at the shows, that in itself can be life altering. And to a lot of other people, it can be something completely different and emotional. And I think that's what you get out of this for sure. It brings you into what the album actually became and was destined for, to be this emotional guide through growth and through living through your life. So yeah, Release is definitely in there. And my number 1 is Alive. I love the moment of everybody, almost you're on pins and needles. You're after Even Flow, you're like, yeah, are they teasing us or what are they doing with this? And you there's like a second of pause and you're just waiting for it. You're waiting for it. And like when they do that, you're just, yep, we did it. We're here. we got tickets to this show, and we're the lucky ones, because if you happen to get tickets to the night before, then you weren't as lucky. That's just how it goes. I don't know if I've ever even listened to the first night of this. I'm sure it's a fine show, but it will never, ever, ever live up to the standard of what this was. So, some people are really lucky in that aspect that they were able to go to this show and not the first one. And, maybe people do consider themselves lucky for just going to the first one. So, there's a lot of good things that happen on this night. And I think that Alive just takes the cake, especially when are you ever going to hear it as the third song in when you're not listening to the album? Just about never. So, all right, let's rate it. What do you got?
Oh, come on. 10. Really? Come on. What are we doing here?
Yeah, I mean, now I was like, I'm just gonna give it a 9.5 because the rest of the set I wasn't too sure about. But yeah, you can't not give 10 a 10. Yeah, sure. It gets
These
10.
people are going to turn this thing off if we don't give this a 10.
No, they're not. They love us. I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, it deserves it. I was in like 9.5 territory of like, okay, this might be my favorite just full album sets by themselves. This might be my favorite one. I think I really like No Code as a full show a little bit better than this one. Binaural was a little weird to me. Versus was very, very good. Milwaukee, we haven't really talked about yet. It's been a long time since I've really kind of sucked my teeth into it, but there was some weird stuff, like Bob O'Reilly happens before getting into Yield. Like, that's fucking throws you off, So I think this is a firm number 2 in the all-time, within the pantheon of these 5 special shows where they did this. I think 10 is number 2, and then I have no problem giving it a 10. Just for and it might be just the 11 songs might be the best of the album section of all of them. Might be.
Yeah, maybe.
So
that's tough because they're all so different.
Right.
Yeah.
You have a different feel from Moline. You have they all have different feels to them. Like, this is the only show where once opens the show and then the record starts right away. It's the only show that does that. So it definitely a different feel. All right, we did it though. We gave it a 10 because it's 10. And we are lucky to be here celebrating 10 and 30. And I hope you guys have enjoyed this and are going to enjoy the content for the rest of the week. The Munich show that we haphazardly talked about in the middle of this set and forgot to mention during our Patreon thing. If you want to go and listen to the Munich show, it'll be out on Friday. That's the day that it's going to be 10's official 30th anniversary. But obviously we celebrate it all week because we love the damn thing. But patreon.com/live on 4 legs. And remember, we are matching donations. We personally will donate what you donate to us in the month of August until the end of the month, and we will take all those donations and donate that to the projectmatters.org. Please go check them out. A wonderful organization, and we will be doing more. You'll hear more about that if you come to the Zoom event on Thursday night. Please send a message, send an email if you would like to come to that. We will send you a link to get in. There's going to be a lot of fun stuff, from live performances of 10 songs and No Code songs to just the launch of the website that we're really excited about. We talked about liveon4legs.com. And then we're going to have also Stephen Hyden there as well. So
former guest of this podcast.
Right.
Podcaster in his own right. It can be
great. Maybe we'll get some insight to some of the things that he's writing for his new book.
Interesting. Yeah,
you
can't
guys
wait.
might like that. So, can't wait either. And really hoping to see all you guys there. You guys are the ones that really make this show run and are the reasons why we go through and do this research and continue to talk about Pearl Jam in this light, because we get the support from you guys. So, doing these things like throwing these Zoom parties together, it's to get everybody together. And, it's also to the lack of shows. We would just be doing these at shows, and Zoom wouldn't be a thing if we didn't have 2020 and 2021 happening the way that they did, which, by the way, Please get yourself vaccinated if you're going to any of the shows, or if you're just surviving in life, please get yourself vaccinated. But especially if you're going to the shows, we do not want to be around unvaccinated people. That's not us being assholes. It's just us wanting to, I got a 2-month-old. Like I said, I got a 2-month-old. I would like to come back home from See Here Now and not have COVID. That's all I'm saying. So that only happens if we're around people that are just vaccinated. And hopefully we get to see all you guys there. It's going to be a fun time at See Here Now. We'll be talking about that in weeks to come. Shit, what's happening next week, John? Do you know? It's been Murderers Row month. We got to murder them more.
We're talking about a 30th anniversary. I think we're gonna go.
Got murdered.
Oh, I love that song. We're gonna go to a 20th anniversary show.
Well, I mean, it's kind of a 10th anniversary now.
True.
The show is a 10th anniversary, but it's celebrating a 20th anniversary. It's this weird. We don't know. We've forgotten how to count. We've certainly forgotten how to count. But a lot of you have asked for this for probably a very long time, and we're the kind of podcast that, we want to provide you with the good stuff when it makes sense to do the good stuff. And right now it makes sense to do this. And that's why PJ20 night 1 will start next week, and then night 2 will come the week after. So you'll get all your PJ20 goodness in, and we'll finally get it done with, obviously with audience recording bootlegs. We can't do anything about that. The band's got to release that shit. But I was at these shows, so it's been a while since I've done one where I was in attendance, and I have a lot of great memories from it. And honestly, most of them are not even from the show itself, just extra stuff. So can't wait to tell all that. And I think we are set here. Hope to see you all at our Zoom party. Hope to see you all at See Her Now, wherever. Hope to get you all there. Definitely check out liveon4legs.com. Now I can properly end this. This may be the end. We're here, but not for much longer. And although we may be parting ways, we miss you already and always. And hopefully you guys are following us on whatever podcast platform that you choose to listen to us on. Spotify, Apple, SoundCloud, Stitcher, even YouTube. Make sure you're subscribed. That way you know when these episodes are coming out. And if you follow us on a platform that allows you to rate or comment or do anything extra, please do that. And let other people know how much you like us, because we like to know that we are liked. Everybody likes to be liked. So thanks all for tuning in. And once again, happy 30th birthday to 10.
Vitalogy's next.